So thank you once again, everyone, for tuning in. I welcome you all on behalf of Rishihood University. I hope you all are safe, healthy, and taking good care of yourself. Amidst this panic, stress, and uncertainty, we all have found our little happy place, I guess. Be it in cooking, gardening, painting, dancing, or connecting with people virtually. These video calls are my personal favorite, to be honest. Corona couldn't really do much to our chit chat sessions, I guess. And so the School of Creativity is here for some gupshup. It's an honor to introduce India's only School of Creativity, which aims to bring about a revolution and impact through design. I would now hand it over to the person behind this, our Dean for School of Creativity, Professor Manika Walia, to take over and introduce our guest of honor for today and proceed with this exciting session.
So welcome Tarang. Tarang is the man behind the Amrapali. Thank you Tarang for taking out all the time and coming on this platform and talking and interacting with our audience. So very welcome and so Amrapali requires no introduction. Amrapali is the dream for every woman. The exquisite and opulent jewelry is with extraordinary craftsmanship and a rich heritage is not only fueling up the domestic market but also the global fascination of Indian style. How beautifully they have redefined the inner beauty and strength of Indian women is truly remarkable. So jewelry of life, jewelry for all season is my personal description of Amrapali. So Tarang, carrying it forward, I would like to understand, and I'm sure all audience are waiting to hear, what was behind Amrapali? Why Amrapali as the name, and how it all started with Rakesh ji and Rajiv ji? You need to unmute your microphone, Tarang. Yes.
Okay, now I can, yeah. Thank you for having me here, first of all, and it's quite exciting. It's great to talk to a bunch of students, bunch of people who are in the creative field and creative area. So thank you for that. Amrapali was started by my dad and uncle in 1978. Both were history students and they both wanted to do something related to history. And originally it all started with handicrafts, and the idea was to try and do things which are locally found in Jaipur and to be able to start a handicraft business and to be able to supply it across Rajasthan and in neighboring states and cities. So that's what it all started with. Why the name Amrapali? Two reasons. One, because my uncle loves the movie Amrapali, or he loved that whole idea of Vijayanti Mala and the movie at that point, and I think it was something which was really nice related to history as well. The name was beautiful. Amrapali was the first woman disciple of Lord Buddha. She was an orphan who was found under a mango tree, hence the name Am and Pali Am. Mango tree Nepali hui was the idea there. So it was a beautiful name, obviously, and as I said, the movie definitely played its part for them to have that. But the funny thing is that the business always started with handicrafts, and jewelry was not the focus and not the part of it until slowly they discovered that Jaipur is a hub and is famous for its stone cutting. Hence, they started doing they started procuring stones, and then that's how they found out that the jewelry world is a lot more exciting because someone who loves history, they were actually able to find jewelry pieces worn by tribal women which are different every 20 kilometers, so such as our food, our goddesses, what we wear, our dialect in the same language. religion, caste. There's so many diversities in India, that was also diversity which was not ever showcased properly. And that's how they basically fell in love with the jewelry part of it. And they thought that it was interesting. Every piece told a story, and every piece was an inspiration. And what they did at that time was how to make tribal jewelry more boho chic, or make it for the clientele today. And that segment did not exist at that time, which they were looking to start. Hence, Amrapali came in existence at that time.
Great, that's very interesting, of how you are talking about the bohemia and the chic, So it's like two poles apart. So we are talking about that gypsy culture, which is typical bohemia. So, again,
I can't hear you properly, sorry.
Understand that what was your vision when you came back from London and you wanted to expand this inherited business?
So London,
it's interesting that it's about the want to know now.
Manika, I can't see you or hear you. Manika?
I believe there's some network issue at our end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm trying to connect with her.
Hey, Tarang, this is Hitesh this side. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great, great, great. So I thought of let's use this opportunity to have an interact with you till the time this technical glitch gets resolved.
Sure.
I belong to Jaipur, a city of jewelry, right? And I
Yes.
believe jewelry and the jewelry houses like Amrapali has taken the entire pink city to the world, right? Making it local for the entire global things, right? So, would like to understand upon thing what trends you look forward in the near future when we have to understand something about the jewelry which is coming up, right? It is part of the life. It is part of the soul. It is something which represents our image when we wear any kind of a jewelry. And gone are the days. I believe the days are back where the jewelry is now for both men and women. So, what you look forward now for this?
I think if you're asking me what is going to move post-COVID and post this whole scenario, I think the most important thing which will be playing in everyone's mind is to have jewelry or have any product with design, with clothing, with fashion, which is going to be sustainable, which is going to be environment friendly. I think that those are the most important factors today in the future. That's what people are gonna spend money on. You know, we have realized what we have done to the environment, or we are realizing that we are getting videos about animals and the nature running free, oceans being cleaner than ever before. So I think that is what is an introspection which we as a race is going through, and I think that is going to eventually happen to a lot of our fashion spendings and our daily spendings also. See, luxury is not a necessity. It is something which you indulge in because you like it, because you want to get it. And in India, we do it,
Very correct.
let's call it, because of weddings or investment. So yes, it will still be there, but it is going to be a little more thought of. It'll be a little more uh, planned. It's not going to be as spontaneous as before, and it's definitely going to shrink a little bit, because I don't think there's going to be a bigger audience in weddings. They're not going to be very big pomp and show when there's going to be events. So there is going to be jewelry market, and in terms of trends, as I said, I think it's going to be more about sustainability. It is more about marketing your product, which is made properly, which is eco-friendly.
Absolutely correct. Even to add on this, Tarang, I believe the quality and something which we see the design, right? When we talk about the creative world, when we talk about design, so as I said, jewelry is something which displays your persona, which says who are you in particular, right, Manika?
Yes, it's a very, very subjective thing, you know. And again, when we are talking about this impact of COVID, and that too with the luxury market, I mean, this has actually hit massively, and especially the luxury segment. Even more than what the recession over a decade ago we went through. So, Tarang, I agree with you. The sustainability, there will be a little dip, definitely. But then to carry it forward, when you are talking about the trends, how do you have this amalgamation when you talk of trends on one side, and then when the complete ethos of Amrapali is all about that Indian ethnicity and the traditional jewelry to this contemporary women? So how do you maintain that balance?
So I think that is what we always do, right? That's the base of Amrapali. We
Yeah.
even our modern designs, even our designs which are new, which are inspired, which are contemporary. We will always have Indian craftsmanship. So our workmanship is going to obviously retain. Something what we are proud of is giving employment to a lot of craftsmen and trying to retain the next generation, and try and always show them that there is this business or this part also is something which is going to stay. It is not something which is not going to stay, and it's not always about blue collar jobs.
Yeah.
So the next generation of the craftsmen needs to be in the same business. We try and motivate them. That is very important. I think what also is very important is that during this whole period, we have seen markets going down, be it Indian or international.
Absolutely.
We have seen oil prices going down, and we are back to basics as to
Yeah.
what we were told when we were India as a society, especially India as a society, because we were taught, our parents have been taught this, our grandparents have been taught this by their parents, that invest in gold, invest in precious metal. And we see the result today. Precious metal has been sustaining very well. And I think the future is that we will have. So I think it is more less trend driven at the moment immediately after COVID. It's going to be more sustainable driven. It's going to be more eco-friendly driven. It's going to be more investment driven versus trend driven. The wedding jewelry is still going to be there. Is office jewelry going to be there as much? That is something which we have to see. The wedding jewelry, as I said, is going to be there, but is she going to buy it for 4 functions, 5 functions, or is she going to buy for 1 or 2? Because there's going to be smaller events, there's going to be smaller weddings. So
yes,
weddings are still going to be there, but are they going to be 2,000 people weddings, or are they going to do 150 people close family weddings?
yes.
So those are the things which will define a lot once this is once this is all over.
Right. So I think that's a new normal which we keep talking about.
Yeah.
Coming back, where we left was we would like to understand, we've heard that how Amrapali started with Rajiv ji and Rakesh ji. Now, when you came back from London, what was your vision to expand the whole inherited business?
So I think what London, so I think first of all, I went to London to study, and I was studying gemology.
Yeah.
The good part in London, why London? Because we got an opportunity and we were invited by Selfridges to start a concession with them. They did a promotion called 23 and a half days of Bollywood. We were supposed to be technically there for 23 and a half days, and that's
Right.
it.
Right.
We were one of the only brands which was basically asked to just stay on. You will not believe, for the longest time we did not have a contract with them which actually said that we legally should be there.
Wow.
We just stayed there,
Right.
and they were very happy with our performance. The market was responding very well. India was in vogue at that time. It was all about bindis and kurtis and jutis, so Indian jewelry hence. So I think that was the time when we were just learning about MSN messengers and internet, and emails were just happening, or email had happened, but it was just not a norm.
I think that was Industrial Revolution 3.0.
Yes. So that was one of the nicest things about that time, because that changed everything, according to me, not just in our business but across the world. Connectivity, globalization happened. Obviously that opened a lot of minds, and what we started realizing, and the benefit which we could see that time for us being in London, was that we could notice that there were some trends which we follow here, we see here, and that takes up to 6 months to travel to India. Indians were not traveling as much to the West, or if they were traveling, they were not traveling as frequently to the West. Not everyone was exposed because there was no internet. There was a little bit of exposure because of movies and soap operas, if you can say. So, which was not very updated either, like today. So seeing something there, understanding what the trends were going, why Chloe is starting a range of bags with beads, and how can that affect the jewelry market? Or you can see the synchronization between bags and clothing and shoes, and what impact will that make on jewelry. So try to start reading those, and that's what I particularly started doing a lot, and trying to get that information back to Jaipur, trying to give it back to my design team, our workshop, and that's how we, I think, started expanding. Obviously, India was growing at a very good pace. We were not just us. I think all businesses, economy, everything was booming. So it was a great time to expand. Obviously the plus point was that we have an international exposure. We also had this extra bit where an Indian would travel to London, which has now become a second home, I believe, for a lot of Indians who travel.
True.
Would go to Selfridges or Harrods to shop, see an Indian brand, maybe not buy from that Indian brand, but come back to Delhi or Bombay or to their city, and then obviously feel very proud that this is the brand we saw there, and hence let me see what I can get from here. Now I'm back in my city. So that also helped us at that point, I feel. So I think of multiple things, but definitely at that point, having the international exposure helped tremendously. This was in my particular journey, but even if I see at my dad and uncle's times when they were starting their business, they were one of the first exporters from Jaipur to export
Right.
silver jewelry.
True.
There was so much license system back in the day. My dad was one of the first ones to understand what the licenses are, what to do, and go and apply for one. And people used to just say, "No, no, what are you doing? This is such a headache." But my dad was like, "No, I'm going to figure out if this exists, then there has to be, it should work." So,
Yeah.
so I think in those days as well, his perspective and trying to see everything from an Indian perspective and the West perspective helped
True.
in that age to grow the brand. And then to the next level, when we were growing in retail, I think the London exposure definitely helped in seeing things in a much broader way.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes very important, to understand both the domestic and the international sensibilities. And I think that has really paved the way forward. And here, we are with Scaling Heights. So again, what I would also like to understand from you, Tarang, is that since now Amrapali is a world-renowned jewelry brand, so how much does each collection, takes time to come into life? I mean, I understand it's a long process from ideation to conceptualization, and then the production, manufacturing happens. And more important is that every Amrapali jewelry piece has a story of its own. So understanding the narrative behind what is the inspiration and how do you cater to the international sensibilities?
So, so the first part, or how I would like to explain this, is that first of all, we have two segments. You'll see mostly Amrapali has been about one of a kind, and we proudly say that even in silver, there are pieces which might not be very expensive, could be 4,000-5,000 rupees a pair of earrings, but the components used in it could be 80 years old or 100 years old, or something which we found with when we procured old pieces, and so it might have some small components which are not really makeable, not really manufactured. And even if you do that, it has natural patina, it has natural worn feel, which is what we love and what is the old vintage, or you can say tribal pieces have. So we do that quite a lot in Amrapali, and then we have another segment which is Tribe Amrapali, where we do launch a lot of collections, and we do it a lot collection wise. How long does it take to design a collection? I mean, so I'm going to give you two examples. There's a collection called Chandrika which we have.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. So Chandrika took I would say about 3 months to design, to prototype, and then to finalize the commercial pieces, and then launch the collection. But we had a collection called Shiva, which took 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of challenges we faced were because we were trying to do a very different kind of plating in different color, which was not achievable at that time, and it took a very long time for us to achieve that. And then mix it with gold plating, and then it would not work with gold plating, it would work on silver, and then we do enameling, which we are planning on the other ends as well. So sometimes something very small can really halt the collection, and then send it back to the design team for it to be redesigned, rethought of. And that happened with that collection. So I mean, I would say 3 to 4 months is a very good time for things to happen, but you never know. It can take much longer as well, as I said.
So like, exactly, like when we talk about the apparel industry, right? So we work one season in advance. Similarly, when we're talking about the automobile industry, they take a huge future window before to foresee, and before the product is launched. So similarly, 3 to 4 months, is this the right tentative minimum period for a collection to come out for Amrapali?
Definitely. Minimum. A collection, yes. Definitely 3 to 4 months is the bare minimum it would take.
Right.
So even when we do launches in fine jewelry, that is the amount we take, or sometimes even longer, because in fine jewelry, then we are getting into a lot more details. Maybe we have to cut diamonds in a certain way, and it needs to be given, and we have to order it with our diamond suppliers across the country or internationally. So, or Surat or Bombay, which are the main cutting centers. So, certain things, the good part about doing this business or being involved in this in Jaipur is that Jaipur is the biggest cutting center of gemstones, or one of the biggest cutting center of gemstones in the world.
Yeah.
Definitely the biggest cuttings, definitely biggest cutting for emeralds in the world.
Right.
And diamonds, we are obviously have Bombay and Surat. So
Right.
we are still able to do things much faster than other places in the country or in the world, I feel. And the good part is that is because of the resources we have here, and that's why you have so many jewelers from Jaipur.
Yes. Tarang, like now when you're saying, which you just mentioned was Chandrika and then Shiva. So I believe
Yeah.
there's a good amount of research component which goes into. So how does your team gets into this research side?
So we have multiple ways of doing that. So obviously, first of all, understanding that what is the collection we're going to do. So say Chandrika, as we were saying. So now in that particular collection, it is based. We have Amrapali Museum, which is my dad and uncle's private collection of jewelry pieces.
That's right.
The foundation which the collection is under is called Chandrika Foundation, and the book published on this was called the Chandrika Foundation book. Hence, the name Chandrika came in place, and we got our inspiration from all the museum pieces which we had. Once that is done in that process, we take say 15 objects from the museum collection or from the museum. We take them out, and then we try and identify components or inspirations from each object and see, will it suffice for a necklace, earring, bracelet, anklet, armlet, mangtika, nose pin, and so on with each. And that's how we would understand that which component in which of these pieces would work the best, and then narrow it down. Then we get into the history of those pieces, as to where were they worn, what color, what was the color of surroundings there, was there any enameling there, was there any hand painting done there, and obviously, and so on. And then obviously we have a lot of tools. We have things like WGSN, which we use, which is
forecasting.
So the forecasting tools are there,
Yes.
obviously, but I try and tell my design team to always refer to books, refer to your own imagination, refer to your own creativity, and refer to what you think more than what is sort of fed, is what someone else or someone else is. These are good ways to give you a direction, but don't only
rely on to it. I'll pick this further discussion maybe after my question, since you have mentioned about the color and the color palettes, about the forecasting and WGSN agency. So now there was this, and this is a very personal question which was running up on my mind since we started this conversation to invite you on this platform. This was a collaboration with Manish Arora on his autumn-winter collection. So Manish Arora, who is known for, very unique, bold color palettes. So how did this collaboration happen, where Amrapali is all about Indian traditional jewelries and ethnicity, where on the other hand you have Manish Arora, who is loud, who's bold, who would like to use maybe fluorescent green with blinge, So how did this successful experiment happen?
So when we started talking about this collaboration and Manish and his team approached us, we first of all had a similar reaction as what you said, because the world of Manish Arora is extremely pop. But when you start looking at a lot of tribal pieces where we come from, which is Rajasthan or the bit of Gujarat, you'll see a lot of colors. You'll see a lot of glitter. You'll see a lot of shimmer because of mirror work on their clothing. Therefore, even on architecture, we have mirror work, sheesh nails. So there is lots of enameling, lots of work done in Haveli. So it was not as contemporary, but we had that whole sensibility of colors anyways going on. We were more subtle. We were more pastel, if I can say.
Yes.
But Manish was more strong.
Yeah.
And that's what and the good part was that when we started talking and understanding what we, I think, both sort of loved was that when you are in your ecosystem, you sort of think according to your ecosystem. When you get someone out of the box, and he or she comes in and says, you can do this like that, and you just think,
Yes.
this is so. Why didn't
we think
a team of
about
1,000
it?
people
Yeah,
think
I
of
agree.
it? But
Yeah.
so that worked very well. Manish took pieces which were old Indian tribal pieces again, and redesigned them in his version, and we did the enamel. And this was the collaboration, if I'm not mistaken, in 2013. And this was 7 years back. And what I'm trying to tell you, at that time, enameling wasn't done on silver pieces or on fashion jewelry. And
That was a new venture,
when
a new experiment. Yeah.
it was an experiment, and that's what we were very excited about, because we got something where it was challenging. And again, I'm happy to say that started a whole different division of enamel jewelry or enamel silver jewelry or enamel fashion jewelry since then, for us and for the industry, and it has done
Yes.
very well. So I think whenever you have collaborations such as those, the best part is that you think from someone else's perspective other than yours,
Right.
and that just opens up your mind. That just gives you a different angle to see, and then you broaden your mindset, and then I can then apply those on fine jewelry. I can apply that on different parts of the business as well, of creative of creations as well. So I think that is what was the idea behind it, and very excited that it did very well,
Yes, it was
and
quite
we
a successful experiment. And that time with the autumn winter season, with such kind of bold color palettes, where we usually stick to the neutrals. So it was quite interesting to see this kind of, a fusion, if I may say that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a different
there's
kind
nothing
of visual language.
there's nothing neutral in the world of Manish Arora's world. There's
Oh,
nothing
nothing.
neutral.
So
Everything
this
is
is neutral white. It's very loud. It's
yeah,
extremely loud.
yeah.
Right. So yeah, this was again, when we are talking about the high end and the couture. So how did this happen? How this journey took a turn when Amrapali was onto the big screen? It's no strange for Amrapali to be on the big screen now, when you have all these box office hits like your Troy and your Bahubali and Manikarnika, Ram Leela, to name a few. And then there's a list of celebrities from Bollywood and Hollywood who adorn themselves with Amrapali jewelry, So how did this happen? And did you ever imagine this?
So I think a lot of this, or I mean, I think in your conversation you're giving me a lot of credit, which should go to my dad and uncle for creating this
Well, it's the same
from
family, so yeah.
So I think it was their vision, right? I think it's always taught to me and to my wife and to my sister and in the family. We've always seen this, that they have not said no to things. They're always open to experiment. They're always open to try things out and not shy away from opportunities. Not every opportunity works out, but what works out and what you may think work out does extremely well. So as you mentioned about, say, Hollywood, for example, back in the day, when I say back in the day, 2002 to 2004, 2005, 2003, that time we had a PR representative in LA.
Right.
And they were looking at, and celebrities needed something new to be given. And again, as I was telling you before, that was the time when we had the bindis and the kurtis and everything, right? The Indian look and henna. I had clients with asking me for henna in Selfridges, right?
Yes.
They were selling pan in Selfridges. They had a pav bhaji counter. So I think so. It was about new culture, and that is what even the celebrities wanted in their adornment.
Maybe a novel
The only
feature
brand,
it was asked for.
and the only brand available at that time for them to get jewelry was Amrapali, which was
Right.
locally available in LA, and they could pick it up. So that created something which worked very well, which definitely created a
Right.
base. Troy was a little before when I was in business, but I wasn't involved in the business at that time. But what I believe was that Warner Brothers wanted to get that look of Greek look, and they found that very similar in our jewelry, and that's how they approached us, and yeah, that's how they wanted that. I don't want to call it Rajasthani or Gujarati, because then you would think of it Rajasthani, but that inspiration, and I think if you see a bit certain cultures, certain eras, if you pick them up, there isn't a big differentiation in designing. 70%, 80% of a lot of basic designing was very similar, I feel, because of the conditions people were living in. So a lot of African pieces I see could be very similar to what our tribal pieces are. So what I'm trying to say here is that is what they saw in our pieces and would work very well for Troy. So that was Troy, and then as you said, Manikarnika and Bahubali. I think here the important part was that we are not just a retail brand. We are not just someone who's doing this, but we are also trying to keep very strong focus on our manufacturing, on our designing, keeping a good strength of craftsmen and experimenting regularly. So to be able to create and go into details to find what clothing each character is wearing in Bahubali, and first she is a princess, and what clothing is she wearing, what surroundings and what situation she is in. So hence floral designing should be done. Then post her marriage, she becomes a lady. She's a wife now, and now she needs more serious jewelry. And what is the idea of the movie as well? So I think we need to get into a lot of detail, which we do, and we have learned this.
Understanding the character, which is also very important.
Very important, working with the working with the costume designers, and to be able to switch things very quickly, to have our own manufacturing unit, for them to just say, can we change this and can we tweak this, and we are able to do it instantly and ship it to Bombay, and our Bombay office can give it to you, or the shooting is in Bangalore, our Bangalore office can give it. So to have a good retail network as well helps in this. So I think it's a combination of things. Obviously, the design team is the most important here, but all these other things definitely is the backbone of such collaborations or such projects which we take on.
And then more than that, it's the vision which matters. So, yes. So there's a very interesting question coming up, Tarang. And the audience here, they want to know that since you've mentioned about Bahubali, what kind of jewelry do you all create other than Bahubali stuff, which cannot be worn or which can be worn in present times by men?
Oh, there's a huge collection. I mean, this is my hand, and this is what I wear every day, and this is what I've been wearing for, I don't know, 18 years, 17 years. So I think men's jewelry is out there, and it's jewelry. I mean, it's not. I personally don't like the differentiation men's jewelry or women's jewelry or whatever, right? I mean, it's jewelry. And if this is worn by a lady, it can be easily worn by a lady. So it's what you are comfortable with. It is the mindset of the Western, when we have become so westernized, that jewelry is not for men to wear. Go and see the villages. Come to Rajasthan, and you see the villages. You see the shepherds. And yesterday, in fact, we were driving around, and my dad mentioned something because of the shepherd, and my dad was like, this is a Gujar because he's wearing certain earrings.
Absolutely,
And
yes,
this is Gujar shepherds who wear it.
Yes.
So,
from community to community, the jewelry and the apparels, it varies. The complete culture changes in a say a distance of say 5 miles. So yes, certainly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So jewelry is for men as well, and there are enough options, but you need to have that mindset open to go in a jewelry store and say, I want to show me what I would be comfortable with. Start with something simple, but there are definitely pieces out there for men, and I mean definitely for with us, but I'm sure with other jewelers as well, whichever you feel comfortable with.
Right, indeed. So that's a little eye-opener. I hope Tarang answered the question. Again, Tarang, now since we are here with an industrial expert and I'm being an academician, so I would like to understand, you must be having a lot of design students applying for jobs or internships. So what exactly are you looking up? What is a good portfolio? How do you say that, yes, he's the right candidate?
So what we have, I mean, see, again, it varies. It depends definitely on a portfolio. It depends definitely on even a product designer who can work very well making a lamp, and then I can use him or her for jewelry. It's the mindset and the idea which we usually are looking for. Um, Definitely looking for creativity and maybe even mixing of different kinds of techniques. Um, I mean, I know I'm on a university platform here we're talking, but we have a design school as well called Gurukul School of Design, and this is exactly what we teach there. That how you do not only think as a designer, but you also think as an entrepreneur. You also think as how this design can it be worn, and if it can be worn, can it be commercialized, and will it be commercially viable? And if it is commercially viable, then so most of the time, I think the problem I feel with designers, not just in jewelry industry overall, is that they are only focused on designing and then not
Yes.
focused on what happens afterwards.
I agree here.
So I
yeah,
think,
because the practice management also, what you're saying, that you have come out with a beautiful piece or a product, but then how do you make it commercially viable? Because that saleable element of being an entrepreneur, maybe, that also has to be seen. So majority of the design programs, they do lack this practice management.
yeah. So I think keeping that in mind is definitely important. I have had designers who you'll not believe have been architectural designers, and we have used them in jewelry because, as I say, you take design inspiration from everywhere, right? So why not again think out of the box? And we have experimented with all of that, but I think definitely an important portfolio, and also targeting the right thing, right brand, right company. If someone sends me a portfolio right now and shows me designs of fine diamond jewelry, then automatically my first impression is that this is not for me, because that's not the kind of jewelry we do. We do Indian inspired pieces more than a white gold piece with 60 carat diamond and four. Like, I mean, that's not what we do. We have some pieces like that, but that's not the base of the brand. So
Right.
also knowing what you are feeding to which part of the trade is very important. I think that also sometimes designers get very excited and forget what they are submitting. So I think do that and don't overwhelm and don't overdo things. I think less is more.
Simplicity is the biggest
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're able to get the other person's attention with 15 designs or 12 designs, don't need to send a portfolio of 400 or 40 or 200 designs. Then you send the next one if they're. So I think these are the small key things which I usually look at.
Right. That's very interesting. and very insightful. So Tarang, though, we are a little time bound and we would like to continue this conversation further, but since, as I said, we have a time constraint. So
Sure.
anything, your message to all the students who are aspiring to be good designers?
So I mean, I was talking about it before as well, and I always say this to anyone who asks me this particular question, which is not about giving inspiration to them, but about design today and what should designers look at. I always say, please do not look at social media to design.
Yeah.
Please design from your mind, design from seeing, I don't know, flowers or birds or nature, architecture, whatever inspires you. Please don't get inspired by another jewelry brand or a jewelry brand in Istanbul or in New Zealand or wherever in the world. Just and then love it so much that starts becoming a narrative when you're designing. So unknowingly, what you're doing is you are taking an inspiration or redesigning the same design. That has become the biggest problem today in design segment, I feel. Taking inspiration from existing design, and social media, Pinterest, the internet has done this.
Yes,
and
I think, yeah, sorry, please.
And I say this because I have done this myself, and I have then realized that, listen, what the output has come out is so similar to someone else's design, more than our design.
Absolutely.
And that's always what I say, that please be very original, please be creative, please use your creativity, and you don't need to design the moon and the stars, but you need to but be original. That is the most important part, I think.
Right. And how do you say, how would you suggest that does history, especially for jewelry design, does history plays a pivotal role?
I mean, for us, what we do in our brand, history is one of the most important things, and not just Indian history. You see European history as well, and I mean, the kind of pieces we see in the enameling you see in France,
right?
And so I think history plays a very important role for us. And then, of course, the Maharajas and the Golconda diamonds.
True.
Influenced all together with jewelry, with enamel, with miniature art, with architecture. I think it just shows that how we can be influenced, and once and how we have to regularly get influence and evolve as well. And yeah, I think looking back is always very important.
Absolutely. And that just gives us a lot of inspiration going back. So I would like to conclude this session, and thank you for everything. And to the audience, we had the creative mind, who has this indigenous vision, and this vision which is so deeply rooted into the Indian culture. So many thanks, Tarang, and
pleasure.
It was a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you to all the audience, and look forward to all the lovely audience here for a next Kapshap round next week. So thank you so much, and hope to see you very soon.
Pleasure. Sure. Thank you. Best of luck.
Bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.